So yesterday we learned about three classes of abandoned nechasim and the differences between them. So there was someone who was taken against his will, Leshevi, did not have time to appoint anyone to take care of his property, and there was a rumor about him that he died. So there, everybody agrees. Maridin Karavel Nichse Shavui, you actually let the Kravim go down, the next of kin go down, and operate the fields. We also had a little. Thank you so much. We also had a little blur from the Gemara that if the Karav hears that the owner of the field actually survived and is making his way back, he can quickly harvest whatever he planted so he can keep it, which sounds very much like he can keep in full whatever he cultivates. Then we had a second case where there was a machlokes about, and that case was Nichse Netushim, where he was also taken suddenly, but we didn't hear a rumor about him that he died. There's a machlokes if Marit Karv or not. That depended on, we're afraid if Marit Karv, they know their time might be limited there, so they're going to exploit the field and hurt the field. And the third case was where the person knew he was leaving and he chose not to appoint anybody. That clearly tells us that he does not want anybody touching his field. So today what we're going to focus on is we've had two things, and it's been ambiguous. We had a halacha that the person who's yored l'nichse kroivai, should his curve come back, shaman loy ka'aris, he will get l'mechsa l'shish l'reviyah, he'll get a portion of the field, right? And that's one of the sources why we let him stay there, because he won't ruin the field, because he is thinking more long term. But we also had a svara, we also had a halacha that he could take everything quickly, he can harvest everything before his relative arrives. So that's what we're going to try to sort out today, is should the relative come back, what is the Karev who went down to the field, what is he entitled to? So we are up to the third line from the top on Lamed Tesam Aleph. Tana, we learned, V'chulam shomin lahem ka'aris. All of these Karevim who go down and start taking over the fields of their lost relative, they get like an aris. Ahaya. Which case specifically is the Brisa talking about when he says v'chulam? All cases. As usual, whenever it says v'chulam, it doesn't mean v'chulam. It just means to include one other case that we would not have thought of. So, what case specifically are we talking about? Thank you very much. Ahaya. Ilema ashvuyin. If it's referring to a case of shvuyin, hashta zars v'niskar hava. We actually said on Amud Beis that if someone was yored on nichse shvuyin, he hears that his relative survived, and now his relative's coming back, so he quickly wants to capture everything that he produced. The kadam v'talash v'achal hareis zars v'niskar, it's his. So that's hardly lamech l'shish l'rviyah. That's saying that he's entitled to everything. So what is the Brisa referring to when the Brisa says Shomin lahem karis? Hash tezors v'niskar hava my de ashkach my de ashbach miboy. Surely he's entitled to take whatever it was that he added, that he proved the field on. Ella aratushim. So let's say we're speaking to nichse retushim. Remember, nichse retushim were those where the person left willingly, and because of that, we don't allow anybody to go down to his field because he knew he was going and he chose not to appoint anybody. Correct Gemara, clearly he doesn't get like an oris, you throw him off the field. Ella Natushim. So it must be referring to Natushim, which means it's a case where the Karev was taken away suddenly, but we did not hear a rumor that he died. But the case where we say Zars v'niskar is if we heard a rumor that the Karev died. If we didn't hear a rumor that the Karev died, he was just taken away suddenly, that's where the Brisa here says Shamin lahen kares. Laman. So let's analyze this, because not everybody holds in that case. According to the Rabbanon, you throw him off the field. So clearly he doesn't get kares. And Rab Shimon ben Gamliel, Ha'amar Shemaiti, the words that Rab Shimon ben Gamliel said were, I heard, Shehan Netushin Kishvuyin. Netushim are just like Shvuyin. Shvuyin means also he was captured, but we heard a rumor that he died. And Rab Shimon ben Gamliel said that they have the same halacha. And the halacha, like we just said, is Hash Tazar's Venisker. He could even quickly cut everything down and keep everything. So where is there an option for a case that would be Shaman Ka'aris? If it's Retushin, they throw him off the field. If it's Shavuyin, he gets to keep everything. And Netushin, Rab Shimon ben Gamliel says, has the same status as Shavuyin, which means he gets to keep everything. And not Shaman like Ka'aris. And for the Gemara, when Rab Shimon ben Gamliel heard that Netushin are Shavuyin, it's somewhat like Shavuyin, but not completely like Shavuyin. Kish Shavuyin, veloy Shavuyin. Like Shavuyin, but not actually Shavuyin. Kish Shavuyin, the Ein Metzia nice in Miyadot. It's like Shavuyin, that you don't take it away from him, but veloy Shavuyin, it's not exactly the same as Shavuyin. The Luchasam Zars Venisker. There, he's entitled to everything. The Luchacha, but if it's a case where you didn't hear specifically a rumor that he died, Shamina Le Ka'aris, that's where he gets Ka'aris. So that sorts out each one what you get. I want to hear the Batchan speak. He said, nowadays any pleasure that we have in the world is artificial. When Mashiach comes, everything's going to be real. So he says, really, it's not called kiggle, it's called iggle. But nowadays we don't have the full honor of everything, so it's ki-iggle or a Cadillac. Really, the name of the car is an Adillac. Mashiach comes, then we'll have the true Alshimolis Chakpina, then we'll have an Adillac. Now it's only a Adillac. So it's Kishvuyin, below Shvuyin. Zarsnisk means he can quickly cut everything down from the field before the relative arrives home, if he ends up making it back home, and he can keep everything.
What's better?
It's much better to be Zars of this group because I get to keep all of the produce in the field, not just 10% or 20% or 30%. Right, an Oris works the field and he gets paid a percentage of the field, a percentage of the yield. Hazars in this group is keeping everything. So the way Rashi learns, and Tosfos disputes this, the way Rashi learns is if you heard a rumor that he died, you get to keep everything. If you didn't hear a rumor that he died, you get Ka'aris. And Retushin, they throw you off the field. Tosfos actually has a little bit of a different shot, but I don't want to get into it because it involves kashas from the Gemara later. Maybe if the Olam asks the kashas, we'll go back to those. Gewaltig. What is the difference between the nichsei netushim that we're saying now you get like an oris, and how a person is treated vis-a-vis his wife's nechas? The Tnan we learned. We know that if someone marries a woman, most of her properties become nichsei malug, where she retains the gufa karka, but he's oichel payers. So naturally, since he's oichel payers, he will likely invest in the property to improve the property, to get a better yield, have a higher quality payers. So he invests a lot of money in improving it. And unfortunately, before he was able to benefit from his investment, his wife divorced him. Right? He got divorced. Hoitzi harbe. What if he spent a lot of money of achal kima, but he never really had a chance to cash in on his investment? Or if the opposite happens, kima, he doesn't invest much, but he ended up taking a lot. It is what it is. Whatever he spent and whatever he benefited gets cut off at the day of his divorce, and everything stops then. And there's no makeup for this. He doesn't get to extract more money because he invested so much money. But Zog to Gemara, you can't really compare our case to that case. So don't ask me a kasha from there. If you want to compare our case to a case of an Isha, let's compare it to a similar case, and it'll come out soon why it's not similar to the case we just quoted, but it is more similar to the case that we're about to quote. A ketana whose father is not alive is not married. It's only midrabanan, and we know at any moment she could make milun and dissolve the marriage. So the marriage is very fickle. The husband is never confident that this marriage will last, because with the flip of her nose, she could decide she wants to walk. He is not going to want to invest much in her properties If anything, he'll want to exploit them because he stands to lose a lot. He has no idea if he's going to have any permanent hold on this karka or any long-term hold on this karka. So therefore, a moitza tzois al nichsei ishtay katana is kemoitzi al nichsei achadam. That's like he's investing in a third party's property that has nothing to do with him, that he has no hope of getting. And what is the halacha there? What is the halacha there? Zok Rashi, kemoitzi al nichsei achadami v'mhoitzi v'loy ochal kedei hoitza asay. What if he put money in and he didn't benefit at least the minimum amount so that he can retrieve his capital invested? Shamalei karis. He will get from the property like an aris. So that is similar to our case. Since when he's married to a woman who could make miyun at any moment, he doesn't have confidence that this property will remain in his control. Takinu le Rabbanon, the Rabbanon said, we will protect you and get you your share as an aris, because otherwise what you're going to do is you have access to karka. You don't know if it's then tomorrow. So you're going to squeeze whatever you could out of the karka, even to its detriment. We don't want that to happen. So therefore, the Rabbanan said, we'll let you take like an aris, you're protected, it's worth your investment. Hakanami, the same thing would apply if someone was yard l'nechsei kroivai. You have no idea if he's going to come back any second. We don't want you to exploit that property. So takinu le Rabbanon, they gave him mechsel shlish ravia. They gave him like an aris so that he shouldn't destroy the karka. So now we see how you can't ask a kasha from a regular wife. By a regular wife, we don't have to give him any special allowance of an aris because he's there assuming that this is going to last forever. We're not worried that he's going to ruin the karka by trying to suck as much out of it as possible in as short a time as possible. So therefore, we don't need to do anything. But in our case, you do need to do something. You do need to make some type of takana to protect the yored because he's risking everything by putting an investment into this property and risking not getting anything back. And the same thing goes to someone who's married to a woman who could make meal. So v'chulon is so vast, broad. Everybody get the kanoris. We've now just whittled it down to one specific case. In a case of nichsei netushim. So what other case is merumas in the word v'chulon? A captive that was captured. We allow a karav to run his fields, but if he left knowingly, we would call it nichsei ritushin. Ein ma'ridin karav l'nechasav, because if he wanted, he would have set it up on his own. That is what Rav Nachman said in the name of Shmuel. But for Rav Nachman Didei Amar, what Rav Nachman said, his own halacha is boireach. If he ran away, hareyu kishavli. If you ran away, he's like a shavli. It depends what he's running away from. Boireach machmas mai. Ilema machmas karga. If he's running away because he doesn't want to pay tax, he wants to avoid paying tax. There, he's not leaving in such an emergency. He's planning to get out so that he won't have to pay tax. Hanu ladas. Surely there, it's not like a shavli. Surely there, it's like retushin, where you don't allow the curve to go into his field, because he definitely had the peace of mind while conspiring this plan to arrange for someone to take care of his fields. Elo the Bereach that Rav Nachman is referring to, that's considered keshavui, is machmas merden. It's because he has been convicted of murder, and in Persia, one who's convicted of murder gets killed, and therefore he's running for his life. It doesn't discuss about whether he's innocent or not, but at the end of the day, he knows he's liable to face the death sentence. Because Rashi says it's only in Persia that they killed. Rashi says, "Machmas merdin shargas and neveshu parsoi harganos shvichas damim." Persians would kill you as a capital punishment if you murdered. Other countries say, "Oh, you're a murderer. Come to our army. Welcome to the club. We like you. Perfect. We're looking for murderers." Right? You know, there's a famous story where in these Arab countries, they like in the Gaza Strip, they have a suicide hotline, right? So someone calls into the suicide hotline, "I'm so depressed, I want to kill myself." So the person on the other end says, "Great, do you know how to drive a truck?" Because they're looking for suicide bombers. Amar, so their suicide hotlines, they're really their recruitment center, right? Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Shmuel, Shavi Shenoshva, a Shavi that was captured, V'hiniach Kama Lixar. When he was captured, he was just ready to do a harvest of, let's say, $100,000 worth of produce. V'niach kama lixar, which would be wheat or some type of other grain, or a novim livtzar, or grapes to be boitzer, or tamarim ligdar, or dates to be cut down, or zaysim limsai. There's a special word to describe harvest for each type of fruit. The halach is Bezdin Yardin l'nechasav. Bezdin goes into his nechasim. Umamidin apotropos. They first hire an apotropos, the kaitzer, uboitzer, the gaider umaisik. They cut down and harvest all the produce on behalf of the owner, and only afterwards, v'akach ma'ritin karav l'nechasim. Frag the Gemara, v'loikim apotropos loilam. Why don't you have? Once you're putting up an apotropos, let the apotropos stay there forever. But Gemara, apotropa l'diknani loy mukmina. Nobody wants to be an apotropos for an able-bodied person. So they can get someone to do just that activity and do the harvest. But long term, they won't be able to. For Yisoimim, you can find apotropos. People want to do mitzvahs. They want to help Yisoimim. But it's very difficult to find Yisoimim, to find an apotropos for an adult. And therefore, Bezdin doesn't even try. The obvious question that jumps out at us over here is, why can't you put the curve right away? Why wouldn't you let the curve go right away and let him do the harvest? That is one of the obvious kashas that jumps out over here. So before we get into that, let's just take a quick look. Easier. The curve is going to get the Metzia Ravia. He's showing like Aris. So let him take it like an Aris. Since it's already ready to go, and this way they'll store it for the bailam. So Taisus asks, according to Rashi, that you take kares, let him cut it down, and I'll take the kares. But look at why should we ever let a karev go down? Why don't we try to retain everything on behalf of the owner? The territory is in bezin tarchin. You know why they don't bother? They know they're not going to find. They will not find volunteers to be in apotropos. The bishlam will ask me for Yisoimim. People hear about it. You're helping out Yisoimim. For an adult, take care of yourself. Let him hire his own person. What should we do? So this is one of Tosfos' kashas, one of his many kashas on Rashi's pshat. Rashi Tosfos asks over here, Visud Amar Shmula Kaman, which is the Gemara we just learned. Shavui Shaniach Kama Liktzar, Mamidam Apotropos, the Kaitzer Viter, and only Achagach Maritin Karvel Nachasa. Frek Tosfos Umeikara Amai Ein Maritin Karv. Kivin Shalo Yochel Peres Bechinam. He's not going to take all the pears. He's going to they're going to be shown like an aris. L'kach nira, that's why Tosfos argues with Rashi. The vadai shekola peres oichel bechinam. You don't only take like an oris, rather all of the pears that are there, the oris gets to eat free of charge. V'mzaval v'charash v'zara. He did all the work in creating a yield, and then ubaylim bo kodim shekatzar. But Bailam showed up before he cut. Then it's yitel ka oris chartir chayva. So Zok Tosfos, that we say it's shaman like ka'aris, that's only if he didn't have a chance to harvest it first. But if he harvested it first, he would get it all. That's why we have to make sure to hire an apotropos to do the harvest, because if we would have allowed the curve to harvest, the curve is allowed to keep everything. The only time we say shaman like ka'aris, and the whole purpose of it is so he shouldn't exploit the field, is only if he did all the work towards getting it, and then when it came time for the prize, the owner came back. That's where Shomal occurs. So this whole Shomal occurs is to the benefit of the Karv who is Yared L'Nechasa. Because if the parish are ready and he actually takes them, he gets to keep them all, which is shot in what the Gemara said earlier, Hareza Zers and Niskar. So if someone heard that his Karv died, there's a rumor that he died, and he went down, he gets to take everything. The only time it's Shomal Lekaris is if before he has a chance to do the harvest, the owner comes back, and that's when he takes Karis. So that's what Tosfos learns. Rashi learns that he always takes Karis, but But Tosfos learns that whatever you can take from the field, you get to keep. The Oris is an extra prize if you don't manage to harvest on time. So we learned Berech Machmas Merit, and there, if someone's escaping from a murder charge and he's afraid of getting killed, there he's not of mind, not of sound mind, to be busy with arranging somebody to take care of his fields, and therefore we consider him like a shav. We did this already. I'm stepping back, so I'll just read it again quickly. You never allow a cotton to be the one taking care of the field, because a cotton is not going to do a good job, and then you're harming potentially the person if he makes it back. And if it's ever the nechasim of a cotton that we have to deal with, you never allow a korv to be the apotropis. And Rashi says because the korv will say, let's say the korv was there for years, the korv will say, no, I made a chazak on it. I wasn't there to service the cotton. I was there because I actually in this field. So you're jeopardizing the nechasim of the cotton. And v'loy korv machmas korv l'nichse cotton. What does this mean? This means we're so concerned about a korv claiming that the property was his, that what if there's a cotton who's there, and we need someone to be yard l'nechasim, to protect this nechasim. We need to appoint an apotropos to take care of the nechasim of the cotton. It's got to be a foreign third party. Can't be anybody related. So it can't be this cotton's older brother, because this cotton's older brother will say, I actually is part of the property. But what if this cotton and his brother share a father, right? What if the father dies, and then the mother remarries and has another child? So now this brother who shares a father with the cotton has another brother who shares a mother with him. So he's totally unrelated to the cotton, right? His brother through his mother, his maternal brother, happens to have a paternal brother that needs someone to take care of his properties. So even a person who's so distant, we will not allow him to be the apotropos for the cotton. It has to be a total stranger. And the Gemara is going to explain why. You're going to put a cotton in charge of a field, he's going to destroy it. What does the cotton know? What responsibility does the cotton have? What does that mean? It's speaking where it's his brother that he shares a father with has another brother that he shares a mother with. Why not a karvel nechse cotton? A child is not smart enough to be moich every 3 years and say, you don't have a chazak on this property. This is my property. So we're afraid once you're in a property for 3 years and nobody protested, that's called a chazaka, and that's proof that the property is yours. Here you'll have someone being the apotropos for his younger brother. His younger brother won't know the difference. He will not be moicheh, and it might allow someone else to make a chazak on this property and have a decent claim to the property. What do you mean? Who's an iyarshn? Iyarshn. Therefore, also lachsukebe. So let's just take a pause for a moment and let's see what Rashi says. Ein maridin katel nechshavei. Zok Rashi, afilu hu royal yarshay. Even though the cotton is the next of kin, the kamafsed lahu, because he's going to mess up the field. They're better off getting a third party apotropos. You should not allow anybody who might have some type of Yerusha claim to be involved at all in this property. Like the Gemara fears the cotton doesn't understand that he has to be moicha to prevent the apotropos from making a chazaka. Also, high karv lachzukabeh. This karv might stab him in the back and claim that the property is his. I was never here servicing as an apotropos to help my younger brother. No, this is my property. I was servicing my own property. We're better off bringing in a completely separate third party where he will have no claim on the property. What we have to think about is I could still say that he sold it to me, that the father sold it to me, right? Even if it's a third party. So we're going to have to deal with that issue, which Rashi will deal with a little bit later. What would be the case? A cotton has a brother with whom he shares a father. And that brother with whom he shares a father with, has another brother from a different mother. So these two kids, the original two brothers, share a father, but they don't share a mother. Now his brother, who he shares a father with, has another brother with whom he shares only a mother, who's completely unrelated to this third fellow is completely unrelated to the cotton. Still ain't married in Yosy. We still don't allow that guy to be able to run the properties with his cotton. Machmas kurbis achiv shozeh shu cotton, because he still has a brother. He has a brother who does have a claim to the property. So since he has a brother who has a claim to the property, you don't even let him go, even though he has no claim to the property. Why? He might say, I'm working the property, but not on behalf of the cotton. I'm working the property on behalf of my brother. He'll claim that this property that I'm working for my brother, the brother with whom I share a mother with, and they're not his kids. So there's still a risk. It's like when you fill out a survey, they always ask you, do you work for an advertising agency? You work for this, they don't have any shaykhs to the parsha. So too, we want somebody who's going to be an opportunist to have no shaykhs to this parsha, so there's no even remote chance that he'll have any type of claim. But Acham Imak can appreciate, like Rashi just said, so Zok to Gemara, beautiful information that we can extract from here. Amar Rav Shemami Nei Midu Rav Huna. From Rav Huna's halacha, he said 3 halachas. Ein marid in cotton, lekarv looks like cotton, but lekarv machars karv looks like cotton. We learn 3 things. I'm sorry, I'm not sure how many things we do. We'll see in a second. We'll count. Shemami Nei Rav Huna. Number 1, ein machzikin b'nichse cotton. If you're a stranger, what's the mile of using a stranger? Obviously, that's going to mitigate the concern that someone will make a chazakah on the cotton's property. But if a stranger could make a chazakah on the cotton's property by being there, but Gunashlovkatim. So therefore, from Rav Huna insisting that you use a third party, it's clear to us that Rav Huna holds with a third party there's no risk because there will never be a chazakah. Zokt Rashi, Shmamina Rav Huna, the Amar in Maridin Karav, will nixle cotton. Why Shema Yasik Behen Makmas Yerusha? Abul Acher, but if it's a third party, She'ain Loy Tanish Yerusha, who does not have a claim of Yerusha, Marid, there we're not concerned and we let him run the child's property. He can also say I have a chazakah, but like Chayshinan Shema Yitain Aviv Shel Katan Machamli V'Chaltim Shnei Chazakah. He has a claim on it. He has a claim that I bought it from the father. Doesn't have a claim of Yerusha, but maybe he has a claim that I bought it. Shemamina. You see from here that you could never make a chazakah b'nichsekot, even though you might have a legitimate way to explain why it's yours. It doesn't matter. We do not respect any chazakah. We do not value any chazakah when it belongs to a child. Unless you can claim that you bought it from the father and you were using this field for 3 years in the father's lifetime. The father would have had the sense to come and protest. But the fact that the child's not protesting is no right at all. There's no such thing as making a chazak in front of a cotton, because the fact that the cotton didn't protest demonstrates nothing at all. The cotton doesn't know better. So that's the first halacha that you know from Rav Huna. What if the apotropos takes on the field of a cotton? He cannot claim the 3 years that the child was a cotton, that he was working the property, proves that it is. But what if the cotton becomes an adult and he's continuing his job and he continues another 3 years? Maybe there he can say, I have a chazakah. You're going to tell me there's no chazakah on the assets of a cotton? What are you talking about? I have 3 years where the child was already bar mitzvah and he didn't protest. That doesn't either one. Why not, Zok Rashi? So from 13 to 16, he was still using the field, and the cotton, who's now a gadol, for 3 years didn't say a word, it's still a half a chazak. You know why? Since when this apotropos originally started working this field, his client was a cotton. Therefore, the cotton himself doesn't even know, because since he's a little boy, this guy's working the field. So just because he's not moicha once he becomes an adult, it doesn't mean anything. It's because he still doesn't know better. Zogt Rashi, how do we know this? The Sfir Lele Rabhuna, the Machzikin Vahen Misha Higdil. If Rabhuna would hold that there would be a chazaka, then Hecha Machtin Dachin Nufsekot. Then you haven't accomplished anything by asking for a third party who's not related. You could have the same problem. Shemi Yebi Yodim Misha Yigdil, the Yitoin Atamachartali. And he'll tell the child, I made a chazaka, I bought it from you when you were an adult. Misha Gadalta, I bought it from you once you were already an adult. Therefore, once you go down to someone's property when the child's a cotton, you could never make a chazak on that again in this round. And that we say that ein maridin karvel nichse cotton, that's only ba'achi the abba. That's if they share a father. But ba'acha the ima, if they only share a mother, less lamba, because there's no time of Yerusha. The achi the abba nami lo yamarin, and even though we will not allow your brother, the cotton's brother, that he shares a father with, to operate the field, that's elabarata. That's only if it's a field out in the country where not everybody knows the details of its ownership. But if it's a house where all the neighbors know exactly who owns what, then less lamba, there's no concern. So this is gavaltik. Less lamba. I love when people talk. Why? How do you know what chelik each child was left with? It's only how you supposed to know. But you see from here that the Yidden Klaishol Ayentas, and they know everything. Every neighbor knows exactly who got which child side. How do you know? What's your business? You on a will? But that's how it works. We know that if it's in the city, everybody figures out who belongs to what. Uber atanami, and even if it's a piece of property where there is a danger, that's only if they didn't write a star at the time to determine and to memorialize what belongs to each person. If they wrote this type of star, Kala Isla, then the whole neighborhood is going to be talking about exactly which Yerusha each one belongs to, and there's no concern that one brother will take over the portion of his brother. But Velohi, it's not true. You're never allowed to allow a brother to be the apotropos for a cotton. Loishnachi the Abba, Loishnachi the Ima, Loishna Arata, Loishna Boti, Loishna Avid Itita, Loishna Loy Avid Itita, Loy Machtinon. Brothers are never allowed, even if it's the brother who only shares a mother. What is the concern if they only share a mother? How could you don't yashin a mother? Zok Rashi, I'm sorry, you do yashin a mother, but the problem is that Rashi pen yoymar shall imi hayu nichsim alug. Maybe it was nichsim alug. The oviv shall katan, and the father of the katan, Baal imi, the husband of my mother, hayu muchsuk ben. He was a muchsuk machma shahu oichel pears because he was eating pears. V'hu meis kaidem leimi, and he died before my mother. V'lo yarsha, and therefore he didn't yarshin it. Ani yarsh chechon machma simi. I'm going to be yarshin machma father. So even though he shouldn't have a claim if it's only his brother through his mother, because it's mainly the father who owns everything, but there's still a concern that he yarshened it from his mother, and therefore he could make a claim against his property. We don't allow brothers at all to be the having of what?
Changed?
Well, nothing changed. We're just saying we even are concerned. We're even concerned if they're Yorshim, if they only share a mother, not a father. Okay, Kavaltik. Because normally you assume the property belongs to the father, right? So
originally we said if it belongs to the mother, it's okay.
No, we didn't. Oh yeah, I mean, originally we did. You mean in this stickle over here, Loyamar? That's right. Right, that's correct. So the Havamina is that if we only share a mother, so it doesn't belong to the mother. Properties belong to the father. If property belongs to the father, we're not share a mother, so I'm entitled to it. Your mother doesn't own things. Your father owns things. So we would assume that this came to him from his father, right? This child yashin this property from his father. Just because we share a mother, that doesn't give me access to your father's stuff. But the reason why, so that was the Havamina. So you don't have to worry. The Maskon is I have to worry because maybe it was my mother's nichsim maluk. It wasn't my father's property. It wasn't your father's property. Maybe it was never your father's property. It was our mother's property, and the father died before the mother. So now it's the mother's property, and I am Yash. Here we have a very interesting story. There was an Alta Baba. The Havila Plas Binta. She had 3 daughters. So this story is going to allow us to apply all that we have learned in the last 2 days to a practical case. But it's not complicated. Haisata, the Havila Plas Banta. She had three daughters. Ishtaboy, and all 3 daughters, I'm sorry, Ishtaboy Eva Chadabart. Her and one of her daughters were captured. So the grandmother and one of the daughters were captured, and there are 2 daughters that are free. Their tsaris didn't end there. Idich Tarti Banta, the 2 daughters that were not captured, they're free. Shchiva Chadaminayu, or Chaman al one of these sisters died. Vishavka Yanuka. So now we have here a grandchild, a woman who's for sure a daughter who's free, a daughter who's in captivity, we don't know if she's alive or dead, and a grandmother who is in captivity and we don't know whether she's alive or dead. So the only people that we know here are free are a grandson and a daughter. So Amar Abai Hechinabit, how are we going to deal with these properties? Look, minila nixi biyad the achsa. If we say that the property should be controlled by the only adult in the room, which is the one sister that's alive and she's an adult, that's a problem. Because Dilma Shchivisavta. What happens if the grandmother's actually dead? Which means that part of these properties belong to the surviving katan. And there's a rule, the Ein Maridin Karv L'Nichsei Katan. So you can't allow the woman who's still alive and free to run the whole property. Because it's possible that her nephew has a chelik in the properties, and if her nephew has a chelik in the properties, because her mother died, then she's not allowed to be that patropis. So maybe nukminul nichsei b'yada de yanuka. So let the child run all of the properties. Zaktimor, that wouldn't work either. Dilma loishchi v'safta. Maybe the grandmother is still alive. Ve'ein maridin katan nichsei shavi. You don't allow a katan to take over the nichsei shavi. He'll mess up the properties. So we're stuck. What are we supposed to do with these properties? Amr Abaye Gavaltik. Hilchach palga yavina lo la'achso. Half you can give to the sister because mimanoshech she's entitled to have, right? Right, half the estate. The idich palga, the other half mukminin lo yapitrupel yanuka. You'll set up a apitrupus for the yanuka. That makes sense. Rava says what Mati says. Midudu mukminin apitrupel palga. Once you're hiring an apitrupus to run the estate, let him run the entire estate. Right, which is what you said, right? L'soif shamu. Then they heard the shchiva savta that the grandmother died. We still don't know what the situation is with the surviving the sister, right? There's still one sister who's in captivity. We don't know if she died. We have now 2 more sisters, one who's alive and the other one who her child is alive. So how do you do it now? Amr Abaye tilsa yavinu alachsa. Right off the bat, for sure she's entitled to 1/3. Because even if the sister in captivity is still alive, each of these 3 sisters are entitled to 1/3. So the adult sister is entitled to keep as her Yerusha from her mother, 1/3 of the property. V'tilsa yavin la yanuka. 1/3 for sure belongs to this child because he asked it through his mother. The idach tilsa, and the third, which is a suffix because we don't know if that sister is alive or not, the one that's in captivity. Yavin and danka la'achta. The idach danka mukminin la yapatripel yanuka. Out of that third, you split that third in half, which is now 2/6. 1/6 goes to the surviving sister, and 1/6 goes to the child. Rav Amar, Miga de Mukam apatripel ladanka, mukmininami apatripel idachdanka. Once you're setting up an apatripus for whatever chelik belongs to this woman who we're not sure if she's alive or dead, who's in captivity, we'll have an apatripus take care of the whole thing. Mori Bar Isik, who was a big, strong, tough man, also lay acha mibechazoi. What happened is his father one day picked up and moved to Bechazoi, and he had a whole bunch of assets in the city where Mori Bar Isik lived. Now Mori Bar Isik went with his father, but then he came back by himself and he took over his father's properties. So they were, let's say, in Bava. I'm making up a city. They were in Pumbedisa, let's say, and his father moved to Bechazoi. Mori Bar Isik came back by himself, and he took over the properties that belonged to his father before his father left to wherever he left them. On relay, and what happens one day, a guy shows up, and he claims, I'm your long lost brother. I was born to your father after you left, and I'm your brother. Actually, what I said is inaccurate. I was born even before you left. I'm a brother, and therefore I'm entitled to half of the properties that you are now controlling. Amalei Ploigli. Amalei, he told him, "Lo yadanlach, I don't know who you are." So he was a Shema. Also, the Kamed Reb Chisda, they went to Reb Chisda to see how they're going to deal with this. Amalei, Reb Chisda told him it's legit when Mori Bar Isaac denies that he knows who you are. Shaper Karmelach, Shenemar Vayaka Yosef is Echad, Veim like Hikiru. Although Yosef recognized his brothers, they were unable to recognize him. The fact that he matured now made him unrecognizable. We're not choshes that Mori Bar Isaac was lying and denying. Rather, it's legit. It's legit. Rashi, Tosfos even adds, even though, even if he already had a beard when Mori Bar Isaac left, he could still say, "I don't know who you are." Why? Any rich person is going to have 5 people come and claim that I'm your brother. So therefore, I have a right to say, I don't know who you are. You need to prove your identity. So, Amalei, Zil Aisi Sahadi, the Akhvat, you need to bring a raya, Adam, that you're Mori Bar Isaac's brother if you want us to seize half of his properties. Amalei, Isli Sahadi, I have Adam, but Mori Bar Isaac is a big, strong man. He's a mafia guy. V'dach limine, the Gavra Alimahu. They're afraid that he's going to beat the living daylights out of them and bust their kneecaps if they're going to say edus against him. It's what we call witness intimidation. Amalei Lididei. So he told Mori Bar Isaac, Zil Ant, Isis Hadid Lavachu. You now have to bring Edom that he's not your brother. Amalei, Mori Bar Isaac, what do you mean? Dina Hachi? How much you make a raya? Why are you making your own dinam? He wants to take the field from me. He has to bring a raya that it's his. Why do I have to bring a raya that's not his?
Not denying it.
It's still much of a chaver levarai. Still much of a levarai. What would the raya be? He would have to bring those Edom, the same Edom that this fellow identified. He would bring the Edom. If he says come, they're going to come, and let them say that he's not a brother. Amalei hachi da'adina lach u'lechalalim u'lechavra. You know something? You're a bully. You're a mafia guy. You break people's kneecaps. For you, there's no rule of hamotzim mechaver levarai. For everybody else, there's a hamotzim mechaver levarai. But you're a bully. You're a gangster. For you, we don't apply the rule of hamotzim mechaver levarai. Amalei. So Mori Bar Isaac says, regardless, I'm going to win then. Soif Asi Saadi, v'lo misadi. I'm going to bring Edom. They're not going to say, I'll find those Edom. They're not going to say that that he's my brother. They're going to be afraid. They're going to say, this is my brother. So you haven't accomplished anything. Amalei, so Reb Chisda said, that's not true. Tati lo yavdi. They might refrain from saying edus if they're summoned by the brother, but to come and say fake edus, that they're not going to do. So you have to bring them, and you have to get them to say that he's not your brother. L'soif also had the akfu. L'maisa, Edom came that he's a brother and he was entitled to have, and therefore he got half the fields. But now he wanted more. Amrlei live like linami mi pardisai ubustini deshosal. Mori Bar Isaac invested a lot of money in improving the orchards, and he wanted 50% of the improved orchard. Mori Bar Isaac invested all the money. He's entitled to maybe like an orish or something, but no, this guy wanted to come and take half of it all away. Amar Lei, Shaper Amalach, Reb Chisda said, Lamaisa, your brother has a good taina, and he's going to take half. It's not a nich, bandem gedolim uktanim, v'shbichu gedolim esanachos. There were younger children, there were older children. The older children put effort into the property and improved them. Ishbichu lemsa. Too bad. It's 50-50. The younger brothers get to take a share in the improvements that the older brothers did, even though they had no input. So Reb Chisda was going to take half of the improved, enhanced pardesim and bustanim and give them to the brother. So Abaye came to Mori Bar Isaac's defense. Amalei Abaye b'idami. When do we say Ketanim get half? That's when the Gedolim go into it with their eyes open. They know that they're doing it and that their brothers are going to benefit, and they're happy to do that on behalf of their younger brothers. The Kamachul, they're Moichel. Here, Mori Bar Isaac didn't know there was some other brother claiming. So when he improved it, he had no intention whatsoever of giving half away. So you can't apply that halacha here. So this Shiloh was bouncing around to different poiskim. So first it was by Reb Chisda. Now they presented this Shiloh to Rabami. Should this new brother be entitled to half of the enhanced pardesim and bustamai? Amalahu.
Didn't help the family?
Yeah, that could be pshat. You can't bring a raya from there otherwise. So Amalu, so you know what Rabami said? What are you talking about? We said Shamin Lahem Ka'aris. We said that if you go into by a car of hayorid l'nichli shavui, if the biome comes, the person who invested the effort gets like a noris. Hashto day here, when he improved it, he thought it was his own. He definitely wasn't doing it on behalf of somebody else. For sure, lo yavinalai, for sure he should get ka'aris. So Abaye is sided with Mori Bar Isik against Rav Chisda. Ahadrua halakamed Rav Chisda.
Morris gets everything back.
He gets at least a third or 2/3. He gets at least a commission, but he wouldn't have to give half away. He would be able to deduct from the second half that he's giving away at least Mechtas Ravia. So you know how the tumulus go. They run back to Rav Chisda. Rav Hami said no, like right. So Amalahu, Rav Chisda says it's not a good dimin what Rav Hami saying. Midami Hasan B'Shus Nachis. There, where he gets like a Norris, is where we were married Karvel and Chosov. He's allowed to go. Bestin lets him go. He never got, Mori Bar Yisrael never asked Bestin Rishus if he could take over the fields. He went and took them. So he doesn't have any protection. And besides the point, he's a katan. His brother was a katan. So even if he would have asked Besdin, can I go take over the fields? Besdin would have said no. Because if you have a brother that's a katan, you're not allowed to be in the fields at all. Like we had from Abun. So what happened? Now I'll drill like Rabbi. Now the Tumulus went back to Rabbi. Oh, Chris said this. I'm going to have to defer to Rav Chisda. No one ever told me that this brother of Mori Bar Isaac was a katan when this happened. So in fact, Rav Chisda is right that we don't protect Mori Bar Isaac at all. He had no right to go to the fields, and half of all those improved orchards go to this brother who made the claim. Okay, we'll stop here, and Bez Hashem will do Daf Mem tomorrow.
The story with the mother and the two sisters.